Well, let's be really black and white about this. The federal government has increased hospital funding, and I've provided the Bendigo Advertiser with the information. It's in the budget papers. You know, one doesn't need to hire a private detective to read budget papers, although clearly the state government's all at sea about its promises. We are increasing funding in the health system in Victoria, where your readers live, where I live. We're increasing it over the next 4 years with no exaggeration, $3.6 billion up to $4.5 billion. The Victorian government at the same time has robbed the health system of Victoria $600 million. Now what's happened is that there's a bit of spin, which you think is more likely for American political comedy than the state government of Victoria, but you get disappointed by them. What they're saying is that the federal government increases, which are going from here to here, are not going a bit further. Now the reason why they're not going further is because the population of Victoria hasn't increased in the projected numbers that we thought it would. Now the reason why I'm explaining that is Premier Baillieu signed off on the formula, which will give them an increase in health funding, but it's not going to give them as much as they hoped. But we're increasing funding. We do our bit in federal Labor. State Liberal, what do? They cut the budget and then they blame everyone else.
But it's 2.9 million less than what was promised though.
Well, wait a second. We had a formula which said that if you had ingredient X and ingredient Y, you would get Z outcome. Now what we've said is that we'll keep our promise, but the population growth, which was the factor which was going to increase it by a certain amount, hasn't been as great. Now it's a bit hard to blame the federal government for honouring our word, for honouring our policy, for honouring our formula. The Victorian government they wanted to run the state. They should get on with running the state and stop forming a conga line of whingers blaming the federal government for everything that Premier Baillieu can't or won't do in Victoria.